We have a green light. Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to welcome everybody that's here in attendance with this evening. Let the record reflect that the time is officially 7 o'clock. Today's August the 30th, Monday. As Board President, I officially call this meeting to order and declare a quorum is present. This evening, I'll lead us in the pledges, and Ms. Butler will lead us in the invocation. We'll rise. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
If you'd like to join me in bowing your head. Dear Heavenly Father God, we thank you, Father, for the freedom and liberty that we have to gather here tonight. Father, we thank you for all that are concerned about those in Louisiana, Lord God. And we just pray, Father, for your restoration, your comfort, and your peace. And Lord, as we have business here tonight, in the best interests of Aransas past students, teachers, faculty, and family, Lord God, we pray that you would guide us in our conversation, discussion, and any decisions that are made, Father. We give you the glory and honor to be able to serve this great community, and to you be all the glory. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Juanice. Recently, one of our former trustees, Rudy Abrego, passed away. On behalf of the board, I want to send our sincere condolences to his family. Mr. Abrego was a lifetime resident and volunteer, and he was an advocate for public education. And I know everyone on this board appreciates the service that he did for the board. And I'll ask y'all to please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. This evening, our meeting consists of two hearings. The first hearing is regarding the 2021-2022 proposed budgets and tax rates. And our second meeting is to discuss the approved mask requirement resolution that addresses the district's health and safety due to the pandemic. Before we begin the public comments for the proposed budgets, I'd like to read a brief disclaimer for everyone regarding public comments. Pursuant to Board Policy BED, the board will hear public comments from every person who wishes to address the board on an agenda item before the board's consideration of that item. This is a time for the board to stop, to look, and to listen to the public comments. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board shall not deliberate regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda that's posted with notice of this meeting. So at this time, we'll go into the public hearing for the proposed budgets and tax rate. And Blaze, is anybody signed up for this portion?
No, we had none signed up for the general public testimony or the budgets.
Okay. Ms. Cook and Cheryl, it's y'all's stage.
Okay. I believe before you, we've got handouts. I think it's a little easier to read than on our iPads. Under the one packet is meeting to discuss the budget. And we've had several meetings about the budget. I wanted to point out a few of the changes that has been made. As far as the revenue is the very first page. There's nothing really that changed here except for under the estimated state aid. Our requirement is to book the TRS on behalf of what we would be booking for retirement, what the state's portion is, and that changed when we entered all the new employees and the salary increases. So that number was updated. Other than that, under federal income, I was notified that we are actually should have a higher income for SHARs, for our participation in SHARs. So those are the two main changes, and it brings us up to a total estimated revenue of $17,111,912. This is still based on an ADA of 1615. Our enrollment in the very beginning was very high compared to last year. We're still receiving new students. And with the 1,700 enrollment with an estimated 95% attendance rate, that brings us to an estimated 1615 ADA. So that's what drove the other parts of the revenue estimate. If y'all have any questions about the revenue?
No, and just for public information, we've been meeting for the last several months in workshops, discussing what we're doing with the budget and trying to get to where it's balanced. We never want to pass a deficit budget. Also looking at our tax rate and then projecting out what we think our enrollment will be based on the different factors that we've seen in the trends. We definitely believe enrollment is going up with all the new things that are happening on this side of the bridge. We've tried to prepare ourselves for that with making sure that we have classrooms or we're at a point to where we can take an influx of students. If it continues the way that it looks like, we may be in trouble. But we've tried to be diligent in looking at all those things and make sure that we have staff. And as the population on this side of the bridge is increasing, the districts are competing for teachers, and we want to make sure that our pay scales are, what's the word I'm looking here? Sorry?
Competitive.
Competitive. Thank you. So we've done our due diligence there with the superintendent, and also looking at not only our professional staff, but our maintenance and operations to make sure that wages are competitive. We were a little bit behind, so we looked at surveys, and we tried to squeeze every penny that we possibly could and pay everyone what we think that we can pay them. We'd like to pay them more, of course, because of the services that they do for us, but sometimes you can only do what you can. But we've made a genuine effort to try to correct some of those things that were in the budget. So I think we've come a long way to get there. But sure, was there anything else on the local, the state, local, and federal income?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
And the next section of that handout is a comparison of the current year budget that's ending tomorrow and our proposed budget. This includes all the new people that we've hired, the replacement people that, and the step increases and the pay raises. That's all in here. And basically, that's the major change throughout this whole packet is the salary differences. The one main difference in plant maintenance, I believe that's on page 4. It's the next to the last page. I wanted to remind you about our property insurance. We're expecting probably another 10% increase, and so we've increased that budget by the $76,000.
Can you explain the difference of the transportation? 34. How much you have included 34?
I'm sorry, Dale, I cannot hear you.
Can you explain the difference of the transportation comparison?
The
Function 34.
$79,000 difference?
Yeah.
With our old software that we were having problems with, that was double budgeted last year, and that correction's been made when we moved to the new software.
Oh, okay, good.
Bottom line, on the very last page, the budget that we're proposing is the total $17,111,912, and it is a balanced budget.
And just for public information, that's compared to the previous school year, which was $16,904,650. So you're not seeing a huge difference there. Slight difference. Do you have any questions?
Yes, on the guidance and counseling, function 31, was that also the software correction for the 40,000?
That's a change in personnel
Okay.
and raises.
Okay.
It's a living document when it comes to salaries. It's hard to really compare last year to this year, because when you have a change in personnel, whether someone left with a lot of experience and we hire somebody with less experience, that's a difference. And moving people to a federal program maybe, or bringing one in from a federal program. So it's hard to compare salaries from one year to the other because of all those components.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, Ms. Stansberry.
There's two other sections. The board has to approve the food service budget and the debt service budget. The food service budget is a balanced budget, and it's based on really historical costs and projections of our ADA. So it is a federal budget, so it's not our local taxpayer dollars, but we do bring that to you for approval.
Okay. Got it.
That's on the food service budget. The debt service budget, what drives it is our tax rate, our tax values, our estimated tax collections. And we are always hopeful that that's going to be enough to pay our debt. This upcoming year, our total debt service payment is $1,231,750. And our tax collections and interest income this coming year is sufficient to pay our debt. That is also a balanced budget.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Keep on moving.
Okay. The next section to discuss is our meeting to discuss the tax rate. I brought this spreadsheet to you before, this one, and it compares last year's taxable values to this current year upcoming taxable values. I like to separate it out so you can have an idea of exactly how things are moving and improving. One thing I want to point out, this is a 3-page document, the very last page is what our tax collector will actually be calculating our tax levy. It's on frozen values. I'm sorry, I had my pages out of order. This year, with HB3 that was passed 2 years ago, it had us on a path that we had to compress our tax rate. This is the, I believe, final year that we have to compress our tax rate. It is based on our percentage increase in taxable values. Our taxable value increased by 15.73%. They allowed us, I believe, a 5% increase, which, to simplify things, we had such a high increase in values that our compressed tax rate doesn't go in increments anymore. It dropped all the way to the bottom. So we are at the lowest tax rate that we will be proposing until the next legislative session changes things. That compressed tax rate will be 0.8720 cents. The increased values also have our effect on our debt service. And when we did our calculations, if we'd left our tax rate the same as last year for our debt service portion, which was 1.145072. If we'd left it at that, it would have triggered an election. So playing with the numbers, we wound up decreasing the debt down to 0.136523. So our total proposed tax rate is dropping from $1.11 down to $1 and 0.08 of a cent. If you had any questions regarding the tax rate and tax values.
Cheryl, I see everything up to the final. Where is the final on this?
It might be out of order. The final page,
I was with you up until that last,
the final page, I don't think you can see it this far. It's that one up there. It's with the pink box up
Okay.
at the top.
I was not on that page.
Had it on the
Okay.
second page.
Yeah, I had that as the second page.
It's on the second page you had, and here it is.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. With those tax values and our tax values and that proposed tax rate, the estimated tax levy that I'm estimating is $9,390,728.
So I'm sure for anyone sitting in the audience, it's kind of crazy, but just kind of put in perspective, we've had so much growth. When you look at last year's certified values is what the appraisers out of each county appraised whatever property here in our jurisdiction. We have 3 counties. We have Sampat, Nueces, and part of Aransas. So we're kind of unique probably in the state of Texas, one of the school districts that has that. But anyway, once our certified rolls came in last year, for 2020 to 21, I'm trying to say this right, our total appraised values was $1,028,552,896. And there was adjustment of 32 million, so we landed at 995,879,585. This year, the value went up by almost 200 million.
Yes.
Yeah, from
The total appraised values.
Right. So that's what we're talking about when we're saying we're seeing a lot of growth happening here with industry coming in, and house building and other things. Okay.
After that, there's the notice of public meeting to discuss the budget proposed tax rate. That was published in the newspaper 2 weeks ago. We're required by law to publish this. And where I want to point out the main differences is the very first section is the proposed tax rate. And I believe what our taxpayers would be most interested in is towards the bottom is the comparison of proposed levy with last year's levy. The average market value on residents total was $1,007,000. The average taxable values on residences, they're saying is $780,000.
Okay, I've
Bottom
lost you.
line,
Where are you
where it
at?
says increase or decrease.
I've lost you. Where are you?
The middle section where it says
Okay.
comparison.
Is it right here?
Gotcha.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right down here.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you now.
The increase and decrease or decrease in taxes for the average homeowner, they're predicting would be $96 less this year than last year.
9661.
Finally.
Anybody have any questions? Nobody has any questions? Ms. Stanzer, you have anything else for us?
The last two documents that is really for the action item portion of the meeting. It's where we actually pass the budget and pass the tax rate.
Which two documents are you referring to?
The one with the signature.
It's in the board book, yeah.
Oh, I have the signing documents with me once you, hopefully
Okay.
pass.
So just to make sure that we're,
It's the same
Yes.
information.
Yes.
It's just what you sign.
Yes.
okay, so before I move on to the public testimony, just to make sure I'm on the same page as administration, we need to approve the food service budget. We're going to need to approve the debt service budget.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to need to approve the proposed 21-22 budget and tax rate.
Yes, sir.
And that tax rate is the .136523.
Yes. 1.008523 total tax rate.
Okay. There are no questions? I want to move to the public testimony on the proposed 21-22 budgets and tax rate. Okay. Agenda item 4 is to consider and approve the 2021-2022 budgets. Do I have a motion to approve the food service budget?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Mullinack. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Diasez. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. A motion to approve the debt service budget.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Mullinack and a second by Ms. Diasez. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. And do I have a motion to approve the 2021-22 budgets and tax rate as presented by administration?
So move.
I have a motion by Ms. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Diasez. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Thank you for all your hard work.
That's
I know
tax
you-
rate. Tax rate.
Thank you, Cheryl, as
Don't we have to
always.
approve the tax rate?
Over to
I
y'all.
just approved it here, the budget and tax rate.
Oh, both at the same time?
Yeah.
Keeping up with all those adjustments.
Yeah. A lot of late hours. Few? I said a lot of late hours?
Yes, sir.
And we also appreciate the conversion to the new system that you and the staff went through.
Okay, agenda item 6 is a public hearing to hear public testimony on the mask mandate and also for the board to discuss the approved mask mandate resolution to address the health and safety due to the pandemic. So as I stated earlier, anyone that is signed up, what you do is you'll come up to the microphone and you'll state your name and your address. And Blaze, will you be the official timekeeper for us for 3 minutes? And the board will listen to your comments. The first person that is signed up is Heather Harkins. Ms. Harkins, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Heather Harkins. I'm a teacher at Falk Elementary in Aransas Pass. This is my 4th year here. I've never been more proud to be a part of the district that puts students first. I am a mother of 3 children in this district. My educational background is in cognitive studies, which includes extensive studies in child development, psychology, and neuroscience, its impact on education. I've been working with children as an administrator and teacher for 25 years in the capacities of public, private, charter, and religious institutions, as well as raising my own children. I'd like for our district to please consider the freedom of choice in masking the way we started with school, and allowing everyone to choose whether or not they need to wear it. I know that many students and staff are currently suffering with mental health afflictions and weakened immune systems due to this federally enforced mandated masking, which we had to do over the last year. And that's evidenced by the millions of dollars given to us, to school districts all over, for for social emotional reparations as well as the surge in the illnesses again. As a mother and a teacher, my number one priority is safety, and I take my responsibility as a teacher. Those children, I feel like, are just as much mine as mine at home. Before I can even begin an academic lesson, I do a health check with these children, welfare checks, change soiled diapers, wash faces and hands, sometimes clothes, wash and sanitize furniture and floors, sanitize manipulatives and supplies. Then I can start in on advocating for them, counsel them, love them, and nurture them, just to prepare their brains for learning. Because without that trust and that love, their brains aren't even capable of learning. And that's for any aged child. My students range in age from 4 to 8 years old, and the primary academic goal is to teach them to speak and read. It's imperative that they see my entire face and lips. Many AP students require speech therapy, which also requires them to see our lips. Many AP students have dyslexia, which again requires them seeing our lips. Many AP students are nonverbal, and it's critical that they see our entire face and lips to understand communication. Many AP students have hearing issues, and they need to see our lips to understand our words. Many AP students have behavioral issues
You can finish up real quick.
due to the trauma and need to be able to communicate effectively. For years and years and years, we've fought against the 5,000 diseases listed by the CDC that are communicable diseases and managed till now because of the heightened media of this disease. And yes, it's very serious, and we don't not take it seriously. But with all of our extra sanitizing that we take into place and the emotional stress that it causes our students, and especially our older students, understanding that this mandated from our governor right now and not
Ms. Harkins, we've allowed you 30 more seconds. You got 5 more seconds.
that we'd just like for you to consider allowing us to choose and to keep in place these extra precautions that we have to sanitize and take care of each other while we just move into this herd immunity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Jody, I don't know whether you signed up or not.
I did not.
You did not, okay. And then there was a signature below yours.
That was Jeremy. No one wants to have
was
it.
just
We thought we were signing in to say.
Sign in the
we're
meeting,
there.
trying to keep the record straight, my apologies.
I see you're present. I'm sorry, I'm still going through the list. I'm sorry, and who is that?
She's not on there. She didn't know she had to sign in, so she went.
Did you want to sign in, ma'am?
She said she didn't know.
That's fine, you can come sign.
Oh, she's got a pen.
That's okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right, let's see. Did April Patterson sign in? Come on up. You'll state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is April Patterson, and I live at 758 South 11th Street in Aransas, class captain. Just let me know when I can start.
You can start.
Again, my name is April Patterson. I'm an alumni class of 2010. I have 2 children, a niece, and a sister-in-law that are currently enrolled in APISD. I know whatever decision that's going to be made tonight is going to upset some parents. However, my concern tonight is my parental rights towards my children's safety, which may differ from someone else's, which is okay, because as parents, we have the right to determine what we do with our families. The masks that are currently being used do not protect us against COVID unless the school is willing to provide N95 grade or better. We're basically supplying the staff and students with inadequate equipment. The cloth masks serve no protection without the adequate filters, and the way the students handle their masks is unsanitary. One of my children had impetigo 3 times last year on their face. No matter how many times I told them not to touch their face, they couldn't stop themselves. Imagine playing outside in 90-degree weather, wearing a mask, sweaty and dirty. That's what was forced on our children last year. Our children are not allowed to play at PE or recess. At one point, my son would come home with scratches from playing stick tag, since the school wouldn't allow them to touch, play with the equipment, or the balls. They were forced to basically push paper for 6 hours a day. no art, no theater, restricted PE and recess, and most of all, no outlets. My children, along with many others, have been dealing with mental health issues since COVID started. My son's anxiety skyrocketed last year due to no extracurricular activities. It was the first time I ever heard my child complain they did not want to go to school. School was not the place they once remembered, even with the great teachers trying their hardest to make the best with the given circumstances. We know teachers were pushed to get vaccinated even though some were against it and received the vaccine anyway. And now they'll be required to mask up. Will teachers decide that their personal freedom is more important than these mandates? And to add to the long list on their job descriptions without extra pay, counseling, janitor services, sanitizing, and mask policing. I know our local PD may or may not be able to enforce this mask mandate. Will we expect that of them and our children, our teachers, to wear this all day long even though it legally cannot be forced at a higher level? We already have vacancies all over the district, so are we willing to lose teachers if they decide they've had enough? Is APISD willing to spend our taxpayer money on litigation with the state?
Ms. Patterson, you have 30 seconds.
I guess I'll go down to, I want to promote a healthy lifestyle, taking vitamins, getting outside, eating healthy. We're in a small town. We have less than 1,700 students compared to Dallas and San Antonio districts, like y'all mentioned at the last meeting, that have 200,000 students. I think y'all should reconsider the mask mandate. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. The next signee is Stephanie Belvin.
My name is Stephanie Belvin, and I live at 535 South 11th Street in Aransas Pass, Texas, and I was here at the last meeting. And I thought, why was it that I was so passionate and so upset about knowing that our kids were going to be forced to wear masks? And I thought, you know, after COVID, where we were all shut down, they were able to go back to athletics. And my kids were like, you just don't know how wonderful it is to go back to athletics. And I was like, and they did all their social distancing and their cleaning, and then the surrounding areas started to come down with COVID, so we shut down. And then we were down for a while, and then I came to another meeting, so that way we could go up and running again. So then we were up and running again, and we started in school with, you know, sanitizing, wearing masks, social distancing, and I was still getting emails, there's COVID in your kid's classroom, there's COVID in your kid's classroom. And my kids were stressed out, they're like, Mom, they're gonna shut us down. Mom, they're gonna shut us down. I was like, one day at a time, let's go, let's go. And then my sister sent me an article of a neighboring state that their kids could see the Friday Night Lights from Texas, and they were killing themselves because they were stuck and trapped in their home and nobody would open it and let them out. And that is my biggest thing, is our kids' mental health. Like, back and forth, it's too much flip-flopping. Yes, no, yes, no. We need some normalcy. They need some normalcy. And that is all I am asking for. I mean, we got email about COVID last year all the time. And it's started again this year. And I believe that if you want your kid to wear his mask, let him. We don't care. I don't care. You want to wear your mask? Go ahead. But if I want to breathe fresh air and let my body do what God made it to do, then so be it. And I'm just asking that you please really consider this before we are forced to do something that we do not want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Reagan. Welcome.
My name is Ryan Reagan. I live at 2665 West Highland in Aransas Pass. I was at the last meeting also, and I was absolutely shocked at that 72% number of people who voted they wanted a mask mandate. The survey was sent out and came back. Apparently, at 72% people wanted the mask mandate. I said, there's no way. How can this be? So I go home and I ask my kids. I say, kids, how many people in your school wear masks? They said, not very many. I said, give me a percentage. 5%? Okay, fine. So then I go and I did this. Went to Lowe's, Walmart, HEB. I looked at the adults in this community, and it was sitting around 7% of people that wear masks. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I was just over at the junior high volleyball game, and I looked up in the stands, and I did a quick count, And that was sitting around 8% of people were wearing masks at that junior high volleyball game indoors, and those are the people who supposedly voted 72% to have a mask mandate. That just happened. Now, so then I was like, man, maybe our board is very passionate about this. Maybe our board really believes in mask mandates, and maybe that's why they're going to do this, because they legitimately believe in it. Well, some of y'all are my friends on social media. It doesn't take long to look through your pages, and you're not. There's pictures of you guys out there vacationing around people. There's pictures of you guys indoors just a couple of weeks ago, arm in arm, hundreds of people around you. And so I say, man, it's not the board. The board doesn't believe in this mask mandate thing. So now I've got the kids, I got the parents, I got the board, and I'm trying to figure out how this is happening. Where is this push coming from? Where did the 72% come from? Because that number came up in a survey somehow. Somehow that came up. And so I look at it and I say, how can these people legitimately be passionate about this and push this on our kids, on all the kids? I looked at you guys last meeting, and there was 5 of y'all here, and 4 of the 5 of you guys couldn't even make it through 2.5-hour meeting without removing your mask or wearing them improperly. You know what that means? If you did that to the kids and this was the school, 80% of the school would be in the principal's office by 10:30 in the morning for improperly wearing their masks or not wearing their masks at all. That happened this last meeting. You can watch the video if you want to. Now, all I've got to say is this. You're going to put these kids in masks for 8 hours a day, and I'm sure they're going to stay on during this meeting. But whenever you're not forced to, whenever you're out and about, when you're in the community, you're not wearing them. Nobody is. We're around 8% in this community, 7-8% in this community. You're going to be presented with some options today to try to find some middle ground in this. I really hope that you do find some middle ground in this, and that you're not going to blanket everybody whenever it's obvious the parents and the community do not believe in this at 72%. Thank you.
Mr. Gary Smith.
My name is Gary Smith, 2373 Morgan Lane, Ingleside, Texas. I'm also a staffer here at the school. I also, like Ms. Belvin and Mr. Reagan was here at the last meeting as well. And really, I first want to take a step back. I do understand the seriousness of this disease. They're like all diseases. I'm not making light of it. I know it's hit home for some people. And we've had travesty that have happened within our community. I completely understand that. I'm not immune to it. I don't sit there and make light of it. So I just want you to understand that as well. Me being a biologist, I struggle with this problem. And the problem is because I know how population dynamics works. Our government doesn't even understand herd immunity. Sorry, they don't. They don't even know what the correct term of herd immunity actually is. I digress. But the thing I want you to understand is, and I said this last week, and I said this, I stand by the same thing. If someone wants to wear a mask, I'm in complete favor of it. I have no qualms. If someone wants to don a mask, feel free to wear that mask. And I understand people's fears and the things that they're dealing with and struggling with and why they want to put that mask on. But my issue becomes if I have no fear. And I'm sorry, I don't. This disease does not bother me. It's no different than the flu. No different than any other pandemic that we had in 2018. We weren't wearing masks. Almost 1 million people died from the flu that year, and we weren't wearing masks. 2010, there was another pandemic. The SARS was broke out. Nobody was wearing masks. So again, I'm not contributing to why it's being pushed this direction, but nevertheless, I'm just asking for that choice, as someone mentioned earlier. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not afraid for my children's life. If I did, they'd be wearing a mask. They don't wear masks. So that's the one thing I'm asking for from the school, from the high school, is that we have that option to be able to do that. And I was just being nosy, but I went to one of the covidlive.com website and looked up the statistics on COVID. It has remained the same since it started. There is only a 2% death rate globally from this disease. 98%, and that's been like that for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. Thank you.
Ms. Pettis?
prepared. I drove an hour home from work today and decided I was gonna stop in here because I saw people posting on social media. I have 4 children in the school district. I'm sorry, I live in Aransas Pass. 2014 McMullen Lane is where I live. I have 4 children in the school district. I thought about coming in here and not wearing a mask, but I have a child at home that has COVID-19 currently. Just like my job does, and just like the school is telling me, the kids have to still go to school, whether they live with a family member or not who has COVID-19. The only way they're excused from school is if they are showing symptoms and get a lab confirmed COVID-19 test. And so when I found out my son was feeling bad last Thursday, he, I'm sorry, it's really emotional. So I had taken him to my sister's and he started running fever and just wasn't feeling well. And that night I tested him, he tested positive for COVID. I find out that the day before he wasn't feeling well, he didn't say anything. So his dad picked him up after school, they went and played football, and he played face-to-face contact with 10 to 15 other kids at football practice who go here to Charlie Marshall. He went to school Thursday, because that was a Wednesday, he went to school Thursday, and didn't tell us he wasn't feeling good, so he interacted with all the students here at his school. He chooses to wear a mask. I don't force him to do it. Thankfully, he did that because he was COVID positive when he came to school that day. So the next day, I got emails from the school again that students from his class are testing positive for COVID-19. I got emails again today that students from his class are testing positive for COVID-19. And for me, if the school didn't mandate these children to wear masks, how are we going to protect the other kids when we're forcing our other children in the home to go to school with everyone else because they can't go to school unless they're lab confirmed COVID-19? We all know that you're spreading this disease prior to ever even coming positive or showing positive results or showing symptoms. And so for 2 days, my child was interacting and potentially spreading this around to everybody in his school, hundreds of students. And potentially my 3 other children right now are going around spreading this around to hundreds of other students at the junior high and at the high school. And we don't know that. I can tell my kids all day long to go and wear a mask at school, but face it, all of you all know that your children don't always listen to you when you're not around. They don't. You know, and so I can tell them to put a mask on. Doesn't mean that they're going to do that. And I feel like it's my responsibility to protect the other people around me. And I can't do that if I'm being forced to send my kids to school, not knowing whether they have it or not, because their brother that lives in the home actually is testing positive and they just haven't yet. You know, and so I'm an anti-vaxxer, I'm an anti-masker, I don't like any of it, but right now I feel like I have a responsibility to put this on my face. And I don't feel like my children should have it on their shoulders or on their backs, whether or not they chose to go to school, infecting hundreds of other children who take it home to their other family members who potentially pass away from this disease. I've known about 10 people in the last month who died from COVID-19. I had 8 family members at one time who had COVID-19, 3 of which ended up in the hospital and 1 was pregnant. And so I know what this does to families. It's devastating. And I just feel like it's my responsibility, and my children are not old enough to make that decision.
Ms. Bettis, you have another 10 seconds.
That's all I have to say. I'm sorry, I was just compelled to come in here
All right.
and speak my piece on this.
Thank you. We appreciate it. On behalf of the board, I want to thank everyone who's made their public comments. I appreciate the passion everybody has. I appreciate you guys showing up and sharing that with us. 6B is for the board to discuss the approved mask mandate resolution to address health and safety due to pandemic. Consideration of an alternative mask mandate with a narrowed focus. And Ms. Cook.
Okay, I appreciate our parents coming in and our staff for taking time to come in and share what you think and what you believe. We really do appreciate that input. I requested this to be put back on the agenda because I just felt like we just needed to discuss it a little bit further, just of how it was playing out and just having all the information. You know, I know you as a board really try to carefully consider everything, and I know this is a very difficult decision. And there's so many moving parts to it. There's a lot of emotion, as we heard tonight, from both sides, of a lot of reasons for and against. So there's not a perfect answer, but I'm a firm believer that when we come together and we look at all the information and we think about what our community needs and wants, and first and foremost, I think what we heard from everyone is that the safety of their children, both physically and socially, emotionally, is very, very important. As I shared last week when we discussed this, that is one of the biggest concerns. Is we have pushed so hard this year to try to start school as normal as possible. We were hopeful that this would be gone and that we wouldn't have to contend with any of this. It was very difficult, and it has continued to be difficult. And we've seen the fallout from this for our children, for their families, and for our staff. None of us are leaving from this unscathed. It's been very difficult, and it gets more and more difficult to continue to try to shoulder this and figure out what is best. But tonight we're here to think about what is best for the 1,675 students that we serve and their families. So I tried to find a little more information to share with you tonight, so that you could decide whether to continue with the resolution as it stands, or if there is an alternate way that we could approach this that could help us meet our goal, which is to keep everyone safe. So the first thing I looked at were the legal issues. I know that's swirling, and it's ever moving. And of course, we know there's a lot of information out there about what's going on the legal front with that. And currently, there are lawsuits that are in place where school districts have put forth against Governor Abbott's mandate that to not allow masks to be in public schools. So there's kind of misinformation back and forth, and it depends on where you look and how you look at it. But currently, even by TEA's guidance, there is no enforcement of any type of mask mandate at this point. But there is an open, because of the litigation that is in place. Our legal counsel has said that that school districts do have a legal right to put forth a mask mandate. I know that Mr. Ken Paxton and some of them have put out information that I've seen that it's not legal, but by our legal counsel and all the districts. So I just want to put that out there so that I know I saw that on Facebook too and everything. But in fact, according to legal counsel, districts do have the right to do that at this time. I say that just because I feel it's important for all of us to know the facts, and then we can work off the facts. With that said, it is a window of time possibly, because once the litigation works through, that could completely change and move back to the inability to have mandates in place. We discussed that last week. That was one of my concerns, as some of the parents mentioned, of the mask on, mask off approach. Concern that mental, social well-being, that we put it in place and then we pull it back. And that was one of the most difficult things that we dealt with last year, was the constant pivoting from one thing to another. So even though it is, as our legal counsel told us, even though it is legal at this moment, the question on the table should be the practicality of is it the right thing to do for our community? And so that is the question. So after our meeting last week, I spoke to our attorney again, just so I wanted to get some more information because since we currently have a mask resolution in place, I feel my job as the superintendent is to continue to gather information so that if we are brought into any type of litigation, what what's going to happen. You know, that's part of what, unfortunately, I didn't sign up to do a lot of legal type things. I wanted just to educate children, but sometimes that happens. So I asked her about that, and she said when we're making decisions about mask mandates, that we should be looking at the compelling interest of safety with no overreach and not too broad. Look for ways of narrowing the mandate of the issue to the source. I then asked her about how many districts she's working with, because she works with those in Austin and San Antonio, Dallas area. And a lot of them have passed mask mandates. A lot of them are part of these lawsuits. So I asked her, how are they enforcing it? Because as you know, when we left from that meeting, that was my biggest concern is, okay, we have a resolution, we have a mask mandate, but how do I take that back to my administrative team and my teachers, and how does that look to be enforced? Because this is different from last year, because last year it was a mask mandate across the whole state. Anywhere and everywhere you went, there was a mandate in place, so it was being enforced in a different manner than just one district in one place. The mandate also was for students that were 10 years and older. It was optional for students that were younger due to the developmental piece that comes into play that was mentioned here, that it's very difficult sometimes for our younger students to manage the whole mask just because of their development. So I asked about that, and she said that most of the districts she is working with do not really enforce their mandates, since there are really no consequences. They offer masks and are basically hedging that the mandate will just make more people wear a mask. There are some districts that put students in ISS for non-compliance. Others put plexiglass barriers or students in alternate seating within classrooms for non-compliance. I asked her if that was legal to single out students, because I've been taught through my career you do not do that in such a way, and she said it was definitely a gray area. So I felt it was important for us to put that out on the table, because where the main concern is at this point is, with the current resolution in place, is the enforcement of that. Well, I think first and foremost is the concern that we're hearing, but then second is the enforcement. So I met with the campus administration to discuss how we would police and enforce this current board-approved mask mandate. And I want you to know that myself and my team, we feel very strongly about, that as leaders, that, you as the Board of Trustees have oversight of this district. And so we feel that, when we have policies or laws or things that are put out there, we want to enforce it with fidelity, because we feel that's what we're called to do. And sometimes that becomes difficult, and this is one of those times. So as we discussed this, we were trying to come up with a solution. How will we put this in place and enforce it, keeping that balance of helping keep everyone safe, but providing a learning environment for our students that helps them to learn and feel safe and feel good about coming to school and so forth. And knowing too that we have a lot of staff, this just goes back to the dress code conversation we've had before. If we don't enforce something like some of the other districts are doing, then how does that look to the students? How does that look to the staff? That you have these things in place and we're turning a blind eye to it. But what do we do to make that happen? So we definitely, as an admin team, do not feel comfortable about pulling students from an instructional setting due to mask. We did not feel that an ISS, DAP, sending home placement is appropriate, because then it might send a message about the mask, but we've just removed them from the one main thing that we're here to do, which is to teach children, and now we just removed them from that. So we didn't feel good about that. We also have issues with singling students out and putting them in alternate seatings or behind plexiglass, because other students will know that's why they're there. And to me, that's just cruel. We also have discussed the whole thing with the students 10 years and younger, and the difficulty of trying to have that every day, all day with them. How will that look? So I share these things not to make anyone feel bad, or I'm just trying to share just some of the concerns, because I know you as a board want to hear those, so then you can take this information and sift it and decide what needs to be done. So we were getting a little frustrated, and what I love about my admin team is that we kind of put it out there, and it's like, okay, but what are we going to do about it, and what's the real issue? And I appreciated one of our principals saying that the real issue that we're seeing is that maybe we need to narrow our focus to what the real issue seems to be. And the issue is that we still have students and staff that come to school that have a positive COVID case in their home. And it may be one because of a parent feeling like I have no choice, and that's something we need to work on better as a district to disseminate that information better, that I have no choice but to send my children to school, which actually they do. And so we have failed you in not making sure that they knew that they did have a choice, and so we will correct that immediately. So with the lack of contact tracing, because last year we did contact tracing and quarantining, and we no longer do that. That's put into the hands by the guidance that I gave you from the public health guidance. The school health official, the local health officials are the ones that are in charge of doing any type of contact tracing. I can tell you, though, they are very overloaded, and so that will probably not happen as probably was intended. So we don't have any of those regulations in place. So with all of this, what it's come down to us from an administrative point, and when I asked Mr. Galvan if we could please put it back on the agenda for discussion, just because I wanted to be able to share with you some of the concerns that the enforcement part of being able to do the resolution as it currently stands will be very difficult, if not impossible, to do without having some of these other things done that we don't feel comfortable with, that I think undoes all the other positive things we've been trying to do. We've worked so hard the past several years to try to create a culture in this district that is student-friendly and student engaging, and we've had everything and COVID has really, really hindered us from rolling out all we wanted to do. So I guess all I'm asking for is a consideration of maybe finding a way to balance this so that we can have a way to try to protect our students and keep them safe, but we can do it in a way that could be more student-friendly, campus, classroom-friendly, so that we can have a safe but emotionally friendly environment for our students. So we began thinking about what we could do. So I've given you a couple of recommendations. These are not all inclusive. These are just ideas we came up with just to kind of get the thought juices flowing. Of course, your first, and I didn't put this one in here, but your first one is to stay with our current resolution as it is. I think it will need some tweaking because we left out some things such as band and some of those areas in JROTC for students that come from other campuses, other districts that do not have mask mandates. We've hit that little hump. What will we do about that? So if we stay with our current resolution, we'll need to discuss some things I think need to be tweaked so that we can ensure that we're very clear on what your expectation is. But then some other thoughts were, the first one, as we were tossing around ideas, we thought, okay, if the attorney says that we should narrow our focus to the issue and source, we thought, well, what is the issue and source? Well, we feel like right now it's the inability that some parents feel that they can't keep their kids at home when they are around anyone that has a positive case, especially in the home. And so we started with the home, and this can be tweaked in any way. But we propose addressing the issue of those in close contact with COVID-19 positive cases within the home and giving an option to families that could prevent the spread. Making parents choose an option then becomes an enforceable mandate, because right now I have an unenforceable mandate by the attorneys and by everything we've looked at, but we're finding a way to give the choice, but still be able to say as a district, as a campus, to have, the choice has been made, and then here's you've made the choice. So this one would basically have requiring face coverings for students or staff who have positive 19 individual in the same household. The face coverings would be required as you laid out in the first order or mandate, indoors only. Exceptions would be in PE classes, participating in UIL athletic, band, cheer, event activities. I know there was a lot on Facebook about that wearing them in the stands. That was never even in the original resolution. I think it just kind of like playing the game of gossip. It just, a lot of stuff started getting added to it. Parents will have the option of keeping their non-COVID positive child home with an excused absence. We would make sure those children had what they needed to be successful academically, or the child may attend school if they have no symptoms and so forth, wearing a face covering during that infectious period. The non-COVID child can be tested on day 10. I changed that from your original. We went to, it could have been 7, but we put it back on day 10. And may return to school without a mask with a negative COVID test result. We just received rapid tests, so we can provide those tests for the students now at no cost to the parents. They don't have to drive over to Corpus or go hunt for some way to do it. We can help them with that now. If COVID-19 symptoms develop, the child should stay at home and contact the campus nurse. Any APISD staff would, of course, we want them at school. We would have the COVID test to test them. And then, of course, if they have any of the symptoms, we would go through that process with them. We would continue to highly recommend the wearing of face coverings by all. We're working with our coaches to discuss ways to ensure athlete safety as part of their commitment to the team to stay well so they can play well. And we will continue to look for other ways to ensure the safety of all. So that was one recommendation that the team came up with to try to find a balance between a full all-out mask mandate to zeroing in and focusing in on who could be the most infectious, so that we could protect the other children and staff members around, but giving the parents choice that if you feel comfortable, send your child on to school, and of course that's working with the nurse, of course, but they would need to wear a mask so that they can protect, as was eloquently stated earlier, to prevent that from spreading to others, or they could keep them at home with an excused absence and the support that would be needed. Of course, yes.
Do we have legal authority to test children?
Yes.
We got these kits so we can
Yes.
test them?
Yes.
Do we require
We have the
permission?
rapid test. Last year, we have to have parent permission, the parents. Now, if they want to go take
They
them
don't wanna
somewhere else and
test.
get them tested or whatever, that's but we have RNs in our district, so our RNs are qualified to do the testing. We have the test. A lot of school districts did it last year. We chose not to because it was just seemed a little overwhelming of how to do all that. But for students, it has to be with parent permission. We have to have, and we would require, we talked about that today, we would require for elementary and middle school students for the parent to be there with the child. We would not do it. The nurses do not feel comfortable doing that without them there. Even with the elementary, we would probably have the parent be the one to actually help the child with the test. Because we want to handle that very, very carefully. It has to be constantly with parent support, and it would only be with their permission. High school students, we felt they're old enough that with parent permission, they could handle, doing the swab
Cleared
themselves.
that with legal to test
Yes.
other people?
Yes, it was done last year. Yes,
Okay.
we're just now getting rapid
So what
tests.
happens when a parent doesn't want their child tested after quarantining for 10 days?
What happens after the 10
They
days?
don't want to be tested. They won't. It's not our business.
It's not our,
We asked them to stay home. They opted to stay home. They did our 10 days. Now they're coming back to school, and we require a negative. They don't want you to test them. Where do we go with that scenario?
well, in actuality, since we changed it to 10 days, they don't have to have a negative result. That was with 7, so thank you.
Exactly.
That was a
So-
correction we need to make. Because when you said that, I was like, so that was CDC has with 7 days, and that was my mistake, because when we changed it back to 10, remember I had, the one you got this weekend said 7 days. By CDC guidelines, it's 7 days with a negative test. We moved it to 10 days so they would not have to return with a negative
That's if
test.
they're not symptomatic, period. anywhere in that 10 days of quarantining, if they become symptomatic, they go out. Regardless of what positive or negative, then your 10 days starts over again from the day they become symptomatic.
Right, and the nurses would be working with the parents at all times.
It's
And
involving constant
Yes.
nightmare if a nurse is supposed to expected to manage 400 children. That can be problematic all on its own.
but we're already doing that.
And who's going to mandate that they wear their mask? Who's going to watch that child that parent
Well-
decided to put the mask on them and take them to school?
Well, and I understand your concerns, and that's where the possible issues are here. Like I said, there is no perfect scenario, and we're just. I'm not saying
No,
what
I feel the burden's going to be on the school.
I.
Again,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
just everyone wearing masks, don't wear masks. It's still going to be a burden on the school district to
Right.
keep up with 20,
I'm not
40
saying
kids
this is
that
my-
come in
I'm-
with positive brother.
Well, by no means am I saying this is my number one choice. I was just coming off of you have the current mask mandate that's in place, which is everyone wear a mask. We're trying to come down now the scale. So here's one thought is we would do it this way. COVID, it's basically close contact. It's our own close contact way within the home. We weren't even saying close contact out anywhere else. I mean, but that once again will have to be on a case by case basis. And yes, ma'am, it is a huge burden on our nurses right now. Huge. That's why I have another nurse we're hiring tonight, because just keeping up with the cases right now, talking to the parents on the phone, answering their questions. Our nurses are being inundated. So as you see here, possible issues with this is getting the correct information from the parents. And then I really think because our attendance, that was brought up last time, that our attendance is a little lower, about 10% lower than it normally is, has been for the first 2 weeks of school. Well, actually, it was began Friday of the first week of school and then all last week. Last week was tough. But we had our personnel calling our parents asking why they were out, because I was trying to find out, are they afraid to come to school? I was trying to get a pulse on what's going on, because I felt like I need to know what's happening in the home so it helps us make better decisions. So I would say 98% of everyone we've called, they are already quarantining. They are already making good decisions. That's why our attendance, so I applaud the parents for doing the right thing. They are trying, as soon as they know their kids have any symptoms, they're calling the nurses, they're keeping them at home. They're not sending them to school and then calling the nurse. They're doing it's kind of like we've been through this, so we kind of know the routine, and so they're keeping them at home. That's why our attendance is lower. So, we don't like it that low, but right now, I applaud that, because it is helping us. That's the main thing. If you know you're sick, stay at home. Don't get around anybody else. That's how we stop this. Some districts are having 65 to 75% attendance rates. We have not fallen below 80%. So our numbers still are not that bad, and I pray to the good Lord above that we don't go any lower. But I think because parents are making good decisions, we're not seeing it. We're seeing it. It's very contagious. This is much more contagious than last year. We can tell that. It's much more contagious because we didn't have numbers like this last year. But we are this year, and it's a different variant. But so with that said, we also, the issue with this first one is how we will monitor it, how we will know who's supposed to be in a mask, because we have a lot of students that do wear masks, a lot of staff that do wear masks, and we applaud them for that if they so choose. But yes, we will have to figure out how to monitor it. But from the administrative team's perspective, we felt like it would be easier to monitor a focus group of students than it will be to try to monitor an entire population and no way to enforce it. And we're just imagining walking up down the hall saying, "Please put your mask on." It's a local mandate. Please put your mask on. Then as soon as we walk off, they take their mask off, and then what? Then what do we do? And we thought, well, normally if you don't follow rules, you get put in ISS, or if it's major, you go to DAP or you get sent home. Well, like I said earlier, that kind of defeats the whole academic purpose for us existing. So,
So can I ask a scenario? Ms. Perez has her 4 children at home, one positive. She chooses to leave all 4 home because she
Yes.
doesn't want to cross-contaminate,
Yes.
whatever her reasons. We're saying that's totally excusable for all
Yes.
4 children to miss.
Yes.
And then we just feed them their instructional
yes,
material.
we will be working to figure out how to, while they're at home, if they do not have any symptoms, how we can try to keep them up to date on their work. Right now, there's currently not a virtual option like we tried to do last year. That was not very successful, and it was very problematic for parents and very problematic for staff to try to manage that, have kids in the classroom, have them at home. And so we are not proponents of that, but we are looking at ways that we could help ensure that our students get what they need. And then, of course, when they come back, have intensive care, academic intensive care for them to get them caught up. Because we feel like our first line of defense is we have to get them through being sick or get them through potentially becoming ill. And then we can get back to the academic side.
So
that's
is
kind of our
that,
thinking there.
is that across, does everyone in our school know that rule about if, for instance, I got a parent that called me, says, I called the attendance clerk and told him my husband tested positive. They were told that that doesn't excuse unless they test positive. They are scheduled to go to test tomorrow.
Right.
And it said they don't have to quarantine unless they are positive, and attendance requirements says now I have to send a parent note every day that they are now, because they don't go in till tomorrow because they all have feeling symptoms.
Well, I
So-
thought we had corrected that, but if that happened today, then all my principals are here, so they're hearing this, and I thought we corrected that last week, so apparently we need to communicate that further. The issue I'm not making excuses, but the issue we're having right now is we have so many people calling in, trying to talk to so many different people, that what we probably need to do is just do one huge statement and make sure and give them a script. We need to script it out, and we discussed that. And so our apologies to those parents. We will make sure we get that corrected.
And we really do have, as many people may not agree with the CDC, they do have guidelines for that. We don't have to invent the wheel. We don't have to, they have exposed direct family members. They have scenarios like that. We can, that don't come to school. If you got a positive family member, it's so contagious, just stay home. If we're
Right.
gonna feed you the information,
Right.
that doesn't put the burden on the school to have to monitor you wearing your mask.
Right.
That doesn't put the burden on the nurse trying to test you in 10 days. And that keeps everyone isolated and satisfies no mask wearing. Keep your kid at home if they're sick, period. We all know we're into this 20 months, not 18 months
Yeah.
into this. This is not the same as last year. It is a lot more contagious, and it does make the adults a lot sicker and the kids weren't even sick last year compared to
Right.
what this
Right.
year's doing.
Right.
So it's not the same beast as we were dealing with last year, but we
Yeah.
didn't, it's only, y'all all know I deal with this every day. You cannot get everyone to agree. We're never, ever gonna agree with this. You're never, ever gonna get everyone to curtail their behavior. But education, telling them what to do. I cannot tell you how many times I tell them what's expected. You can't come back to work. You have to do this. It's an algorithm. You stay consistent across the board, and you don't have confusion. And you don't have people saying, well, you let him come in, and they all want to know each other's business. Why did he get to come back in day 2 or 5 or 8 or 10 or whatever? We need a consistent protocol, and we need everyone on the same page, because you can't have one nurse telling them and the other one nurse not.
Right.
If we can get that organized, we're not in any place, I don't think, to pass a resolution, and I told you that last week. We don't have enough protection for our staff and for our students to resolute anything personally right now, today. We don't know enough for the answers, and we can't get everyone on the same page, and these are great ideas, but they need to actually be before we sign papers saying this is our policy.
Right.
I don't know why we got to an emergency meeting of calling, maybe our attendance, but we started school out with saying, let's see where this goes, and the next thing I hear, we have an emergency meeting.
Well, just to Just so the record's accurate, it wasn't an emergency meeting. Ms. Cook contacted me and asked for a special meeting, that she was concerned that there was a spike in the district, and that she was concerned for the safety of our kids and the health of our kids, and that she wanted to consider and wanted the board to discuss a mask mandate. So that's why the meeting was held. It wasn't an emergency meeting. By policy, happens within 24 hours of posting for the meeting. That was a special meeting. Policy requires 72-hour notice to the public. And just for everybody's information, so we're all on the same page, every municipality, school district, governing body in the state of Texas has to adhere to the Open Meetings Act. Our regularly scheduled board meetings are every second Monday of the month. They have to be posted 72 hours before. So Blaze and Ms. Cook works on the agenda. Ms. Cook and I review it, and then it's posted so the public can go to our webpage, and if they want to come and be educated or want to come and sit in and listen to our meetings, they have that notice that's been provided by us. So that specific meeting wasn't an emergency meeting. I know I read that on the Facebook page. But believe me, we're all passionate about our kids and our students, and to me, and Ms. Diaz has made the comment earlier, I wish our board was packed like this at every meeting when we're discussing GPA and honors and all these other things. But we are very adamant about being transparent in what we're doing. I work hard, Ms. Cook works hard, Blaze works hard to make sure our meetings are posted, and that when we do have our meetings, that we're in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So just as a
Thank you. And I'm
just as a
just,
correction.
I think we need to tweak a lot more before we sign a resolution, is my personal.
Well, and I think that's where, and I apparently didn't, because I wasn't asking, I apologize, but I wasn't asking to pass a mask mandate. I was asking to have a discussion with the board, because I only see, see you guys once a month. And so,
Cook, we brought a resolution. I mean, the attorney brought up
right.
brought up
Well,
a resolution.
well, there's no sense splitting hairs there, but I don't, anyway. So, okay.
If I may, just for a moment, before you continue on with the options and ideas. Because now that we have a bigger audience and more people are listening and paying attention, last week was different. Today, we have updated information. She even got updated information over the weekend, okay? Where we sat last Thursday and had a lengthy discussion, a lot of pros and cons, a lot of ideas and brainstorming before we got to the resolution, our attendance numbers showed us that at the end of the first week of school, we had 19 student COVID cases and 5 employee cases. The following week, when we met, the number of 19 student cases went up to 43 student cases. The number of employee cases went from 5. There was another 10, 19 plus 43 more. We had 62 total student cases. I apologize. At the end of the second week, we had 15. So week 1, 19 students and 5 employees. Week 2, we're at 62 and 15. But even from posting for that meeting last week, additional things were coming out legally, okay? Our numbers are slightly increasing. The district did a survey that all APIC families had the opportunity to participate in, and all employees. And whether you like the numbers or not, we do surveys all the time for various things. And so what we were looking at last week was 72% of the parents wanted mask mandates. 56% of employees wanted mask mandates. So with our number of cases increasing in 2 weeks period up to 62 and 15, and the survey results, those are indicators that we need to be discussing this as a district. We need to be looking and monitoring and deciding at what point do we do something? At what point or how long do we wait? So for those individuals who were not here, who have not watched the meeting on YouTube, who are just now chiming into this topic and these concerns, just wanted to give you a little background on where we sat a week ago. And after that, we're now hearing from more people, which is great. Because the more input we get, the more that we're talking about this, the more awareness there is. So whether you believe in vaccines or that mask or what have you, it's at least at the forefront of thought and conversation, because people on both sides of the issue all want the safety of this district for employees and students. And so I hope that we can move forward to get to a place where we can be better, more compliant, more diligent, so that we don't see these numbers continuing to increase. And it's at every campus that we've had these numbers, and it's also been in athletics. So I just wanted to, for the benefit of those who weren't at the meeting, who haven't watched it yet, to have a little understanding of where the board was coming from. And so now we have the opportunity to see if we can improve upon that.
We're not saying that 72% of the people are doing it right now. They're not sending their kids with masks, because we didn't ask them to do it yet. What we're saying is 72 agreed to say, we will do it if that's what you ask, as the staff did. They're saying they agree. It's like the gentleman said earlier, I went to Academy, and I saw like 50% people with masks. I go to stores and I see more than 7 or 8%.
I know this is an action item. I feel like this resolution is not specific enough to protect the administration, to help the staff implement anything, whatever it is. We got a cleaning mechanism down pretty well detailed on the cleaning, what we're all gonna do for your children when they come to our school, and how hard we're gonna work to keep everything clean, everything. We need to get more specific on what we're gonna do with a sick one that's coughing, fever, and what to do with the parents, with the ones that got sick ones at home. We don't have those details. We're not there to make these decisions yet. If we're gonna tweak anything from the current, this is an action item. But the information I have in front of me personally doesn't help us get to a different place yet.
Well, and just because there's just like last week, just because it's an action item, you don't have to take action on things. And that was what we discussed last week, potentially, because there was so much in flux. But the decision was made to pass a resolution. So currently there is a mask mandate resolution in place. And that's why it was brought back for a little more further clarification. Because of the concern of us being able to enforce what was decided last meeting. So that's why we're bringing back, the first option I've mentioned. And like I said, these are just recommendations. There's sky's the limit, I guess. The other option was just like CCISD has done. They have an opt-out option. They have a temporary mask mandate with an opt-out option. And the parents have to fill out a form to opt their students out. Once again, some of the possible issues are monitoring that, because you have a smaller focus group, but our admin will have to monitor who has opted out. And then the third option we put here was you can rescind your current mask mandate, and some of the things to consider if you did that is one, I gave you information where I talked to Dr. Mobley. He's our San Patricio health official that gives us information. He, in his opinion, and by his charts that he has and works with, he has indicated that the spike may be coming to an end. He said for this wave. I didn't really want to hear this wave, but he indicated that in an email I received today. because of the difficulty and impossible, difficult to impossible part of enforcing a mask mandate, the large percentages of families that are making the right choices to quarantine when in close contact. We do have waivers available for low attendance days. I know that was a concern that was expressed last time that I wasn't prepared to answer. So the district can reassure parents that excused absences for close contact will be approved. And we just, as I explained last week, we just got rapid testing in. We're beginning it this week in our district for staff and students. So we feel like with these potential things, it is an opportunity for us to still highly encourage and do everything we can to try to work through this. Of course, the possible issue here is the spike does not end and we continue to have more cases. As I said at the beginning, there is no perfect answer to this, and it's riddled with lots of emotion, lots of thoughts and ideas. Apparently, I apologize. Apparently, I've not done a very good job of communicating, and I apologize for that. But I think my main objective here was to bring all the rest of the information to you, and because you as a board made a resolution that I was kind of left feeling I didn't know how to move forward with that. I just wanted, and I appreciate Mr. Galvan allowing me to bring it back to you. Just for, I'm not trying to cause upheaval or everybody to be disconnected in the community. If anything, I'm trying to find a way to bring us all back together and try to find a way that we can move forward so we can get back focused on what we need to be focused on, which is educating children. That's why I'm here, is to keep children safe and to educate them, and I feel like we're at a stopping point right now with that. So I'm just trying to find a way to get us back to that. If the board keeps the mask resolution as it is, my team and we will do the best we can to make sure that it happens. That's why we're here. But I just felt, to be fair to you and your decision making, that you have all the information as it evolves. And that was the point of asking the special meeting, because we're supposed to be a team of 8, and as a team of 8, my job is to bring to you the latest information. I can't do that in an email, and I'm not supposed to poll you on the phone, and there's so many regulations. So, and my team will tell you I'm very collaborative, probably to a fault. I believe in sitting down together. I believe in discussing things. I believe in the goodness in all of us, that when it all said and done, all of us are in this room because we love children and we want what's best for them, and we want them to have a good, well-rounded education, and we want Aransas Pass to be the go-to place where people feel good about being here and feel that their voices are heard, and that we together, we may not always agree, but in the end, we'll do what's best, what we feel is the best thing for the students. And so that's all I had this evening.
Does anybody have any questions on the information that was shared with us on the narrowed focused?
Just one. I know that the narrowed target group, we're looking at Panther families where someone's in the household who tested positive.
Right.
But that option, we would test, wearing the mask or coming to school, testing at the 10th day, or not even having to test at the 10 days now, since it's not 7.
Right.
But we would follow that even if it wasn't, because we know that people can get exposed to other family members, by other family members who don't live in the household. You're at an event, you socialize, or maybe friends, or what have you, because right now, people are approaching this in their personal lives in so many different ways. So it's not just those that have someone in their immediate household, right? If somebody is exposed to another family member because they went to a family event, we would still allow them to get an excused absence.
As I said, these were just general options. It can be tweaked to be whatever you feel. As Ms. Dialysis has said, the CDC has guidelines. The huge difference this year, well, there's many differences this year, but one is last year we did contact tracing. And there was some issues as we got down into that whether we really should have been doing that really should be more of a health officials that do that type of thing. So that's why in the document that I provided for you, they have put here that local public health and entities have authority to investigate cases and look at the contact tracing. So what we can do is, of course, our nurses are already talking with parents, and we're already pretty much doing that. If they
Okay.
feel like the child is capable of being infected and they feel like they need to have that option, I think it wise of us to allow that, because otherwise we're just, I mean, yes, we want them in school because we can't teach them to that highest level until they're at school. But right now, I think we've discussed as an admin team, that's where we have to find a balance. That what we normally would do, and some of those normal conversations that maybe where some of our staff are still a little used to having that attendance conversation that they're used to about you've got to come to school, we're having to shift that a little. And look at this landscape of what's going on and adjust accordingly, in hopes that if we do that, then we can get to the end of this quicker, and then we can get back to whatever normal is going to look like.
Okay. I'm not implying that we do contact
I
tracing.
appreciate the
I'm just saying that I don't want people to walk away thinking, oh, it has to be a member of my household in order for me to get the waiver and get the excused absences and get the resources.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else have any other questions? So just to frame this real quick, our options are to keep the mask resolution as it was passed, to rescind the mask resolution as passed, or to approve a narrowed focused mandate. If we continue with the mask requirement that we have, we need to give direction with an implementation date. If that's not going to be the option that we choose, and we're going to give administration director to go back and work more thoroughly on the narrow focused, because you didn't feel like it was enough information there. So those are the options that we have. I'll throw that up for discussion.
Again, I personally would like to see a more specific, narrow focus and revise the current resolution that the declaration I saw just didn't have enough to protect everybody and keep everyone on the same page. I was confused by it, so I can't even imagine how parents would be able to.
Are you talking about the
current one.
the resolution as it was the resolution
One
that
that
was
was
passed?
passed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it's across the board, everyone, there was no opt-out, there was no, in the current one. I think the 4, 5, 6-year-olds wearing masks all the day, every day, when they can't even get vaccinated by law.
Right.
See, that's just kind of, we're putting hardship on the district as well as trying to protect them. Keep them home if they're sick. It's that simple. Just keep your babies at home if they're sick. And then we will manage those onesies, twosies, and tens that come through, because they will. And remember that rules are different for everywhere. If you work somewhere and work can let you come back in 6 days, that's not the rules of the school. We will try as closely to stick with the CDC guidelines.
CDC guidelines last year was 10 years and older on the mask requirement.
The governor's orders, but third grade. But was it CDC? He said, is it
No,
CDC?
it was not. As a parent, I can confidently say
Yeah.
that I had an 8-year-old who was made to wear a mask all year.
So the answer was it was 8
The
for
governor's
kids.
orders, I thought it was 10 and up. Yeah.
Yeah, but the school didn't follow that because Jeremy's. campus
Oh, the
did
third
have
grade.
8,
You're right.
9, and 10-year-olds, so to make it easy for the district.
The third grade.
Third grade.
This whole
The
campus
third
wearing
grade.
a mask.
Right.
Well, I'm kind of in favor, the resolution we passed last week, talking, with that, again, I voiced concerns last week that it's going to be kind of hard to mandate and enforce from the administrative perspective, and you guys kind of confirmed that, so basically, we'd have something that we just overlook. We got a mandate, we're not going to do anything about it. So if you don't wear the mask, there's no problem. So that's, so again, why have a mandate to do that? The one that you proposed, the recommendation for an alternative, that gives us, I think that's more enforceable and gives us a little bit more foot to stand on. And it's not, and we can do a lot better with it. But again, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. So I'm kind of leaning towards, working on this proposal that you come up with a second, with a recommendation instead of a mask mandate, to kind of tweak it a little bit, put some more stuff into it a little bit, but give us something that's a little bit more enforceable, because again, our administrators, like I said, I believe that we should focus on educating the kids, not enforcing them to get the mask. And if we're putting them in ISS, that takes them out of the classroom, which they're not getting any education. So I'm kind of, I kind of swung it back a little bit that I kind of like your idea better, to do something that's more enforceable than something that we're not going to be able to enforce. Plus also the fact being that next week, if the laws change with all the court cases out there that are on this, that next week they may say that you can't do that. Now we force kids to put masks on. Now so again, we go through that, I expressed that last week too, we go through that jockeying back and forth that, wear your mask, don't wear your mask, wear your mask, and so the kids get confused, and we don't want them to do that. We're going to do something, let's do it. It's going to be permanent, so that we can enforce and make it last.
And in my world, the epidemiologist is predicting it's not going to balance out till mid-October.
Okay.
Because of Labor Day, it's going to spike again,
yes.
because we're all going to be off for 3 days next week, and they're all going to come back after going to the river or whatever.
You got Patriot Day too.
That's just nature. That's human nature. It's going to happen. They're going to get together with people that they don't normally see and get exposed. And this is a lot more contagious than it was last year. So,
Yes.
and then the winter's going to come. So this isn't going away tomorrow. This isn't going to go away
I'm afraid
next
not.
year.
I just want to clarify something. It's not that we can't do it.
Right.
We already had the district's professional legal opinion that says that we can. It's not that we can't enforce, it's how reasonably and feasibly and effectively can we enforce. We enforce the dress code. There's consequences and
Excuse me,
repercussions
guys. We
for the
one
dress
second,
code.
Ms. Butler. Guys, we're having a meeting and I'm hearing
So-
some chatter out there that's distracting, so please be respectful to the meeting.
It's not that we can't do it, but it's what are we willing and how far do we want to go with this? So I don't want, because there has been misinformation after our meetings, I just want to clarify that. Even if we rescind the resolution, even if we amend the resolution, even if we come up with a whole new resolution, today we can do it. Today we can enforce it. It's just the discussion now is, how do we do that? How effectively can we do that? How can we manage it? If enforcement is not manageable, then yes, we need to talk about alternative means. But I don't want this audience or anybody else later on watching this thinking that the board or the administration trying to enforce something that we cannot do. I just want that clarification on the record. One other question I have is, since we are discussing how we can improve moving forward, if we don't take action tonight, what happens with the resolution that we already passed that's supposed to take effect September 1st?
It has to take effect.
Okay. We do have a board meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks,
September 13th.
September 13th. If we don't take action tonight, I think we need to give clear indication to the administration what it is that we would like to see so that we can move forward and take whatever action we need to take. I know it's consuming a lot of time. And like you said, this thing is not set in stone. The numbers and the cases are not under control.
No, not at all.
And we can't compare ourselves to the rest of the world because that's apples and oranges. Some districts don't hardly have any cases. Some districts have more cases. We've got to deal with what's happening right here in Panther Nation. And so if our numbers start to flatten or lower, okay, but we're not seeing that just yet. So
what are you in favor of?
I just wanted to know what it is that's going to be in place if we leave this meeting without taking action. Where does that leave administration?
They have a resolution that's passed to enforce. In order for them not to implement it, it has to be rescinded.
Because our administration's telling us that they're not comfortable.
I mean, you just spoke to that point. I mean, it's
Yeah.
whether you want to implement it or not. I mean, there's no question with the legality of it. I mean, our attorney, just like you spoke a little while ago, has advised us of where we are legally, so we have the local control in doing that. We don't believe we're at a point where we're narrow focused, and looking at the data, you know, at the surveys that we had and the numbers, I don't think that we've plateaued yet either. So, I mean, from my standpoint, looking at the safety of our students and our staff, we need to continue moving forward, or we need to rescind this. And the only thing that I would like us to consider is to amend the resolution with the age of the babies that you guys discussed, and last year was 10 years or older. I mean, if we're going to move forward with it, I'd like to see that one amendment to the resolution added or rescind it.
And rescinding and not having anything else in place takes us back to where we were at the beginning of all of this, when we still have the majority of our families who want to see us do something.
Yes, ma'am.
To be more preventative, take more preventative measures. So how do we speak to that? If we rescind the resolution and we don't have anything else in place? How do we give that reassurance to those families who took the time to respond to the survey, and the majority of them said they want action? And over half of our employees said they want action. Are there any alternatives?
I think if we start with a mandation, and again, I'm all for vaccinating, I can, full closure. If we go from 0 to 100, and there's no backing down. Why do you take, if it matters and it's making that much of a difference, why are we gonna be driven by a number then? It's for the safety of our kids, it's still out there, we're gonna just wear masks. If we're not driven by a number, and yes, we knew going into this year, we knew it was bad. Delta was already out there before school started. And now we're chasing our numbers, and now we're trying to get a little bit more specific to manage maybe the kids that are coming to school sick. We can always go to adding a mask. That's an easy mandation, as far as no rules, no algorithms, no stay home, 10-day, just wear a mask. You know, we can always add this. I don't think what we have in front of us, though, is enough. We don't have specifics. If we're adding 10-year-olds or younger, don't wear them, that's better than what I saw, but I still don't think what are we gonna do with those that don't wear the mask? Where the parents have all the right to not let their kid come to school? What are we gonna do with those kids? That's not in that declaration. And if we're gonna sign something, I think we need to protect it with more specifics as a board if we're asking them to implement it. That's my part with it. When I read that, I wasn't comfortable signing it. I didn't think it had enough meat in it. Do we need to add the meat now, or can we approve it and let them add more to it? Do we know the answer to that? Is it legal to pass something and then put more specifics into it after it's passed?
Well, we would be approving the resolution to require the mask, and then administration would be putting an administrative plan and enforcing it, correct?
Right, I mean, and that's what we were trying to do on Friday after it was passed on Thursday. We were trying to come up with the plan of implementation for this. And that's where the rub started happening, because as we dove in and I asked legal counsel, you know, I called our attorney. I said, I need some ideas. How do I legally enforce this? If I have parents come and say, my child is not going to wear this mask, what am I supposed to do? And that's where the train went off the tracks, you might say. And I reached out because, you know, that's why we were trying to find an alternate way to try to do this, or
So we still don't have the answer to that question
no.
as of approving that resolution.
Not unless, I mean, there are districts, as she said, as we were told, there are districts we could say you will go to ISS if you don't have a mask on, or we'll have a special room to put you in, or, you know, here's some plexiglass, we'll put this around you, or a barrier or something. I mean, those are options to enforce this. I'm just sharing with you, as your administration, we don't feel comfortable doing any of that. You as the board have the authority to tell us to do it, and then we will go back and we will make it happen. I mean, that's just black and white of it. But, you know, I just felt like it, you know, I felt like we were a close enough team of 8 that I could come back to you and say, we don't feel comfortable with that, because it defeats everything else we've tried to put in place for 3.5 years.
I can't speak to that because I've only been on the board this year, but I think maybe instead of looking at it as one or the other, maybe taking the resolution, tweaking it for age, and looking at these options as the implementation plan behind the resolution. To say, a mask mandate at APISD is going to look like this, and then these are the nuts and bolts of how it's going to work. Maybe ask counsel if that's doable.
Again, we have a passed resolution. If it's not going to be, and with an effective date.
Mm-hmm.
And their mandate is to implement that resolution that was passed, unless we rescind it.
Right, but what I'm saying is this, what's being referred to as the alternate plan, does it have to be an alternate plan, or can it just be the implementation plan?
Well, in that case scenario is you don't come to school, and if you do, you come to school with a mask because your family member is positive. That's not everybody in school wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
So that
That's
is
what I said.
definitely a revision of the.
That's what I'm saying, amend the resolution, but let these implementation measures
The
that
policy.
administration has come up with be how we're going to carry out
So that
an
would be
amended
rescind the
resolution.
current one then.
Well, we can amend
And
it,
modify it.
we can modify. So that they go in tandem together.
I don't say I can be in tandem. If you put a mandate out that everybody wears masks, and then you say you only wear a mask if you got positive people, that's.
No. Okay, for example, that's what I said, amend the resolution to reference the implementation plan that they come up with.
Yes. So it would be a mask mandate with this in, but not mandatory for everybody to wear a mask.
Right, with the exceptions, band, cheerleading, with the
Yeah.
exceptions of whatever age group.
Getting there, but I think that would be rescind the current and create.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think we need to rescind and work on this a little bit longer. I mean, it's just not,
algorithms to it.
that's my recommendation.
Okay, so
I don't think, we don't have time to wait. Is
if we
mine.
do,
We need to do something.
we can,
November 1st is Thursday.
right, Right. Can we amend the existing resolution? Okay.
September 1st would be almost possible to implement it.
We can amend the date.
That's what I'm saying. We can
can amend
amend
it.
that resolution.
Well,
Yep.
Yes.
I'm gonna caution the board here to be sitting in a public meeting to try to come up with an amended resolution is not gonna be, that is more of a function of a workshop for us to do that than to take time up at a meeting.
Right, well, again, I said we're going to be meeting in a couple of weeks at a
We
regular
don't wanna
meeting.
wait that long.
Or we have another special call meeting. But if that's something that is doable, that'll give, at least give administration some direction where they can go back to legal to see if we can have some type, the spirit of the resolution that was passed, but amending it to incorporate the implementation measures that administration thinks that they can manage and enforce and carry out.
And again, the court might settle it for us, and that give us the okay to do it. So a lot of people getting riled up, and we're going through all this, it might not even happen. You know, it's going through the court, and other big cities, Houston, Austin, Dallas, and none of them are fighting Abbott. There's a reason for it. They ain't doing it just for the fun of it. It's because of what's going on in their school systems. So it might be settled. They got a bunch of judges fighting it right now.
So what I hear the
There's
board, the
lawsuits.
majority of the board saying is we want to amend the resolution to a future date and to modify the implementation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break so I can work up with the wording for the,
Resolution?
not for the resolution, for the motion.
Motion.
We're gonna take let's call it 8:55, we'll go to 9:05.
Yep.
Okay, we have a green light. That tells me we're on. Okay, so just to make sure and clarify, I need help sometimes. We want to delay the implementation date, correct? Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
We want a more narrow focused.
Correct.
definitely.
Correct.
So in order to do that, we're going to have to get a motion to delay the effective date. We're going to have to go into a workshop. We're going to have to refine the resolution that we passed with what the district has as far as narrowing the focus, and together as a team, come up with what that's going to look like.
Good.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Before we can do that, we have to have 72 hours to post our meeting, so we can't meet earlier than 3 days. So we're looking at after Labor Day, which is September the 7th, which gives us time and lets us give a chance to sit back and wait to see if anything happens in the legal battle that's out there in the state. But it also, we can set a date of September the 7th, which is the Tuesday after Labor Day, to meet in a workshop and come up with a new resolution that's more narrowly focused.
No, just clarify, we have to have 72 hours just to have a workshop or a meeting? A workshop as well?
Because you have to post a workshop,
Okay.
so it's the same thing. So, will everybody be available on Tuesday the 7th?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the 7th, it could be Wednesday the 8th.
Well, you bet I will make everything that we could. We're gonna be going that week,
Okay.
but I will make sure that I
Okay.
share everything.
Is everybody okay with moving forward that way?
What day?
The 8th,
Tuesday the 7th.
7th, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
That's after Labor Day. Yes?
Good.
Yes?
I'm good.
Yes. Okay.
What time, 7?
Yes. Yeah, what time do you get off work, Fino?
I get out at 5:30, so 6:30 would work.
Okay, 6:30, Ms. Cook,
I take a quick shower.
Tuesday the 7th. Okay, for our audience, want to thank you guys. We appreciate comments that you've given us. If you've listened to us, you see that we're going to amend the resolution that was passed and delay an implementation date. And we're going to meet as a board along with the administration and modify the two narrow focused in the resolution that was passed, so we can have a new resolution to address the health and safety due to the COVID pandemic that administration can implement. We're on the same page?
Yep.
All right.
So move.
So after after much discussion and thought, do I have a motion to amend the current board-approved resolution to delay the implementation date until a board workshop can be held to narrow the focus of the resolution?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Molinek. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Diasas. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion's approved. I'm sorry?
Opposed.
Okay. Our next item is to convene an executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.001, concerning any and all purposes permitted by the Act, Section 551.074, discussing personnels for new hire. Time is now 9:05, and the board will convene an executive session. Okay, let the record reflect the time is now 9:14. The board is reconvened in open session to act on any items requiring action. Do I have a motion to approve the new hires of Scott Thrasher as the NJROTC commander and Teresa Morales as the AC Blunt RN?
So move.
I have a motion by Ms. Diasas, a second by Ms. Butler. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. Time is now 9:15, and this meeting's adjourned. Thank you for
Thank you, Blaze.
everything, everybody.
Good
Thank
job.
you, staff.
Good job, Victor.
Yeah.